My grandparents gave me a trip to Rome, but my parents forced me to hand it over to my golden child sister. She caused a car accident on the way to the airport, so I took the ticket back and flew anyway. Hi, I'm 18. For my birthday, my grandparents on my dad's side gave me a plane ticket to Rome and a spending check. The very next day, my parents started pressuring me to give the gift to my older sister, June. She's 21 and, if you haven't guessed, the golden child. My parents said June is studying architecture, and a trip to Rome would be perfect, good for her language skills, and a chance to see architecture in person. I argued that I'm planning to major in literature, and Rome matters to me, too. Plus, June already had the chance to travel. For her 18th, our grandparents also offered an international trip, but she refused and asked for cash instead. Now it was my turn, and I wasn't about to give up my gift. Also, as far as I know, the airline doesn't allow name changes except in rare cases. But my parents kept saying I shouldn't worry. They just needed the physical ticket and they'd figure something out. The fight dragged on for days after my birthday. 2 weeks passed. In the end, I gave in and said they could do what they wanted. Not because I wanted to give up the trip, but because I realized it was useless to fight. They wouldn't stop until I agreed. They guilt-tripped me, listing everything they'd ever done for me and calling this one small favor in return. It felt incredibly unfair. I pushed back at first, but a couple of days ago, they slipped and said they didn't want the trip to go to waste. That stung. So if I went, it would be a waste, but if June went, it mattered. They tried to backpedal, claiming they only meant June just finished school and Rome would look good on her resume. How, exactly? I, on the other hand, would have plenty of time to travel later, unlike June, who starts work in a couple of months. I finally said fine, take the ticket. I just didn't want more fight. At least I still had the check. Honestly, I'm used to this kind of treatment from my parents, and I assumed the ticket couldn't be transferred anyway, so I doubted they'd pull it off. Somehow they found a way. At least they thought they did. Yesterday, when I was supposed to go to the airport, June took my boarding pass and went herself. On the way, we got a call from the police. June had been in an accident and needed help. Apparently, she grabbed the taxi's steering wheel because she decided the driver was taking the wrong route to the airport. She was afraid of being late and did something stupid. The car skidded and hit a tree. June got away with a few scratches. The driver was badly hurt. The impact was on his side. His arm seemed broken, and he had a deep head gash that needed stitches. He's suing June, and now my parents will have to dip into their savings to compensate him and avoid court. When I heard all this, I blurted out that it was karma for making me give up Rome. I regretted it immediately. They looked shocked and said you can't joke about things like that. I tried to take it back, but they said words have weight, and if I said it, I must have meant it. Now they understand. I'm selfish, hence the awful comment. The hypocrisy made me furious. They're the ones who said they didn't want the trip wasted, implying if I went, it would be pointless. I reminded them of that, but they refused to engage and left for the hospital. I was livid. On impulse, I took a taxi to the hospital too, because it hit me. I was giving up my trip for nothing. No matter what I do, my family will never value or respect me. I threw essentials and clothes in a small bag and left. I reached the hospital within minutes of my parents. We were in the unit where the taxi driver had been admitted. June was telling the cops the accident wasn't her fault, though it was. I didn't even talk to her. I walked up and asked if she still had my boarding pass. She looked confused and dazed, so I grabbed her bag and dug through it. I found the pass, took it, and ran back to my taxi, leaving everyone stunned. I headed to the airport and, thankfully, made it at the last minute. I boarded and that was it. I was flying to Rome. I didn't check my phone until I landed. A couple of hours ago, I learned just how angry my family is. My parents say I'm heartless for thinking about my trip while June was in a serious accident, one she caused. June is mad because she thinks I stole her opportunity when she stole mine first. The general consensus: I was wrong and owe them an apology. I'm not sure I want to give one. June also texted that our parents will have to use their savings to settle with the taxi driver, and I know our finances are bad. So instead of enjoying myself, I should have saved money and given my birthday check to our parents. But I'm just selfish, apparently. So tell me, was I wrong for flying to Rome after my sister's accident? Edit. A few answers to common questions so you can understand the situation better. The boarding pass. I don't think my parents or June actually figured out a way around the airline's name policy. I suspect her plan was just to show up and hope for the best. If they'd succeeded, I couldn't have flown on my own passport, so there was never a real plan, and that worked in my favor. Why I still lived with my parents if they always treated me this way? I grew up with it. I didn't normalize it exactly, but because my parents always favored my sister, I thought I had to try even harder to earn their love. It's weird thinking, I know, but that's how I felt. 18 years of trying to be the better daughter, so they'd finally love me. Just disappointment, pain, and anger. I didn't want to give up because they're my parents. Also, my grandparents live far out of town. I didn't want to uproot my life, even if I knew I'd be better off there. They also don't know how my parents treat me. No one in the family does. We hide it well in public, so I never seriously considered leaving. Now I think I will. I'm an adult. I don't need to please anyone anymore. My relationship with June, we've never been close. I don't hate her. She doesn't hate me. We just don't get along. Money. We're near the lower end. Mom's a nurse. Dad's a high school American football coach. They rely on my grandparents' money. I don't know how they'll manage now. If they ask my grandparents for help, they'll have to admit what they did. Why was June in the taxi's front seat? Habit, probably. Even when we drove as a family, she always took the front. It's her spot. Also, she's a bit of a control freak. She literally grabbed the wheel because she thought the driver didn't know the best route and would get her stuck in traffic. She was sure she knew better. That's what caused the crash. She even left for the airport nearly 5 hours early. You get the picture. Before we continue to the update, share your thoughts in the comments. Was the OP right or not? To me, it's obvious she was absolutely right. People will say, how is this not clear before? But when you grow up inside a family like this, it isn't clear. Crisis exposed the crack. Now on to the update. Update 1. I took a couple of days and decided to relax and enjoy the trip. Once I start college, I might not have a chance like this for years. I don't need to worry about my parents or sister. They're adults. It's not my fault they tried to take what was never theirs and got what they deserved. You were right. It was naive to expect them to value my sacrifice. They'll always resent me anyway. There's no reason to give up my dreams for them. I'm having the time of my life in Rome. This morning, I told my grandparents the whole truth about how my parents treat me. Even my friends didn't know. Saying it out loud was a relief. Many of you urged me to tell someone, so I chose my grandparents. They were shocked it had gone on so long. I told them I kept quiet because I believed, if I keep my head down and try to be a good daughter, my parents will appreciate me someday. Now I know that will never happen. My grandparents said I did the right thing and told me to come straight to their house after Rome. Don't go home. They'll arrange for me to move in. I said I'll be leaving for college in the fall. They said that's fine, and they'll cover everything. One conversation changed my life. I'm not worried about where I'll live when I get back. I made my parents furious. They won't welcome me with open arms anyway. By the way, early in my college applications, my parents made it clear they wouldn't pay for me, though they paid for June. Their excuse: they already paid for one daughter. I should fend for myself. Now I don't have to worry. I'm happy with how things turned out. I'll be home in a week and living much better than before. Update 2. My trip ended a couple of days ago, and I'm living with my grandparents now. I went straight to them from the airport. They'd already prepared the guest room and moved all my things from my parents' house. They welcomed me warmly. They told me that after our talk they went to confront my parents. A meeting was happening anyway, because my parents had called them the night of June's accident to ask for help figuring out what to do. My parents didn't want to dip into their savings for the taxi driver, and definitely didn't want a court case. Dashcam footage showed June caused the crash. A settlement was their only option, but the driver asked for a huge amount, and my parents wanted my grandparents to help. When they met, my grandparents started with me. They asked if it was true my parents had treated me unfairly my whole life and forced me to give up the Rome trip for June. My parents tried to dodge. We're here to talk about June, and Opie is partying in Rome, so what's the point? But my grandparents pressed. My parents snapped and admitted, yes, it's true. Then they said I'd proved I deserved that treatment by abandoning the family in a tough moment. They claimed I came to the hospital only to grab the boarding pass and didn't care about June. They said I've always been jealous because June is better at everything, so none of this is their fault. They insisted they never treated me unfairly, a lie, called me spoiled and self-absorbed, and said that when I return they won't tolerate it anymore. That was enough for my grandparents to disown their only son. They and my parents argued. My parents told them to leave and said they didn't need their help if they were going to enable my selfishness. They also said they don't need me anymore. So if my grandparents want to take me, go ahead. My grandparents then hired movers to take my things and bring them to their house. When my grandparents told me everything, I burst into tears. It hurt. I always knew my parents didn't care about me, but they're still my family. My heart was broken. I pray no one else has to go through this. My grandparents stayed by my side, and I'm beyond grateful. Now I'm sure I'm living with them. This is my home. I start college in a couple of months. Until then, they'll be here, and when I leave, they'll cover my expenses. Since coming back, I haven't spoken to my parents or to June. I hadn't even read their last messages because I wanted to enjoy my trip. Today, I finally opened them. Thank God I didn't earlier, or I would have had another breakdown. June's messages all called me selfish, spoiled, worthless. She's glad never to deal with me again because I'm beneath her. I think she's confused. It's the other way around. Honestly, I don't care. What hurts most is my parents, but their words don't surprise me. They wrote that I was heartless, that they should have stopped me at the hospital, that it's their fault for raising me wrong. Even there, I slipped away and flew off. I didn't reply. They kept saying, "We did everything to give you a comfortable life," as if a comfortable life and a good childhood are the same thing. They reminded me they sent me to school, fed and clothed me, and I always had a roof over my head. What more did I want? Yet I whined about being badly raised out of jealousy for June, so it's unfair to paint them as villains. Finally, they said they were right to call me an empty shell, that I am one, that I wasted their time and energy for years, and now they're finally better off without me. Those words almost made me cry, but after talking with my grandparents, I promised myself I won't let their cruelty break me anymore. It's not worth it. I didn't cry. I just blocked my parents so they can't contact me. I hope this is the start of healing. After all the damage they did, I think I need to erase them from my life if I want my best life. Maybe not completely, but I'll try. Update 3. Today, the wildest thing happened. It's been almost 2 weeks since I returned. I had no idea what was going on with my parents in June. I assumed they were still scrambling for a settlement. This afternoon, my parents suddenly showed up at my grandparents' house, clearly in a vindictive mood. Luckily, they didn't even acknowledge me. I opened the door. They walked past me to the living room. I hovered, unsure, but my grandparents told me to sit with them. My parents didn't like that. I could see it in their faces, but said nothing. My grandparents asked why they'd come. Last time, my parents said they wanted nothing to do with them for taking my side. My parents said that still stands, but before cutting ties, they had unfinished business. They pulled out papers full of calculations and claimed they'd spent a huge amount raising me. Since my grandparents were taking over as parents, they should reimburse every penny spent on me. From now on, my grandparents were responsible. I was stunned at the audacity. They demanded almost $120,000. It was insane. My grandparents calmly said they needed to discuss it privately and stepped out. Silence. My parents ignored me completely, wouldn't even look at me. It was painfully awkward. A few minutes later, my grandparents returned, sat down, and my grandpa, calm and polite, said yes, they would gladly reimburse my parents every dollar spent on me, on one condition. My parents must first repay every dollar they borrowed from my grandparents over the years. My parents were instantly cornered. You could see it on their faces. I had to leave the room because I wanted to laugh. I stayed upstairs until they left. When I asked my grandparents how it ended, they said my parents tried to wriggle out of it, then started yelling and slammed the door on their way out. Classic them. I doubt they'll be back soon. And even if they are, it won't be a problem. My grandparents showed they can handle them, and being their only son won't change their resolve. I'm leaving for college in a couple of months, and honestly, I can't wait. Going to Rome was probably the best decision of my life. That's it. The story's over. Thanks for listening till the end. Check out our previous videos right here, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Good luck to you all.